Hello, Mark Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. My guest today is Matt DeHart. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Dreamcatcher podcast. Yeah, we just met the other day, and I have been, yeah, what a story, what a backstory you have, and forward-going story. So Matt, where are you located at? We'll start with that.
Yeah, so I'm currently located outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, an area called New Kensington Arnold.
Okay.
And so it's about 25 minutes outside the city, but originally from South Carolina. So not a northern boy. I'm very much a southern boy,
Uh-huh.
uh, born and raised, proud of it. But moved up here with the goal to make real change, and to really show how opportunities can create new lifestyles. New lifestyles can create generational wealth and generational opportunities. So, originally from the South, moved up here to the North and have really enjoyed the Pittsburgh area.
Awesome.
Pittsburgh's such a great city, so much to offer. And so that's where I am right now.
Okay. So do you ever get back to South Carolina then?
I haven't gotten back as much as I would like. I wish the flights from Pittsburgh to Greenville Spartanburg International Airport were cheaper,
Uh-huh.
because then I could get down there a little bit more. And the drive is about 9 hours. And I'll be honest with
Oh,
you, when my wife and she's from the Pittsburgh area. So when we were
okay.
dating,
Okay.
I think I made that drive between 15 and 20 times. I mean,
Few
I
times.
was all in. And the moment that business started to come about and opportunities to fly came
Uh,
about, I am so spoiled. I'm like, I don't want to go over like 4 hours in a car. Like I would rather fly. So,
Me too.
I've made the drive a couple times, not as many as I would like. I definitely want to, as we go forward and continue into the opportunities that really God has laid in front of us, I hope to be able to get down there a little bit more.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that I'm with you. If you can fly, so,
Yes.
so
Yes.
so Matt, I told you before we started, I didn't really know what you were up to with your background. So give a little bit of a background to where you are to today to the audience, please.
Yeah. So, to give you an idea of where I come from, I'm a third generation educator. So grandfather, mother and father, and then myself, all not only teachers, but basketball coaches. So this
Cool.
is when I tell people education is the family business, it's quite literally the family business.
Uh-huh. It
You
is.
know, living off of a school schedule per se has never been in my wheelhouse. I've always been involved in it. Even though, funny enough, there was a span of time where I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get involved in education, right? But the humor in that is that I ended up right where I said I wouldn't.
Yep.
But yeah, so mom, dad, grandfather, all educators and all not only passionate educators, but very well respected
Awesome.
educators. So the running joke is that, my mom and my grandfather both have gymnasiums named in their honor.
Oh wow.
And then my father's in multiple Hall of Fames. So I had to buy a building and put my name on it to be accepted. That is the that's the running joke.
No,
Um, but
that
in
works.
that joke, right, Mark, is actually, I mean, that's legit. My mother and grandfather both have gymnasiums named in their honor. My dad is in multiple coaching Hall of Fames, and I was blessed to watch excellence every single day,
Yes.
right? And that really impacted my view of my life, in that I saw, my grandfather would go to the grocery store and buy two sets of groceries. And not until I became a teenager did I realize he was always buying an extra set for a family he knew needed them.
Oh.
Or my mom would have a basketball player who maybe had some home issues and got kicked out of the house. And so guess whose bed was up? Mine. And I would go sleep on the couch.
Wow.
Hearing about my father purchasing a home at this junior college that he taught at, because it was right at the edge of the desegregation issues in the United States and the South. And so he bought a home on his own dime so that his players multicultural could live together. So like watching that excellence play out and that dedication play out is really what inspired me to live the life that I'm living now.
Wow.
And so I'm blessed. The background that I have, I tell people I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I can see that. I mean, you are blessed, and wow, what a background, and what, and you've just yeah, and what you're doing now. I mean, it's so much coming up with your academy and everything in 2010
Correct.
fall this year, and so how's that journey? How did you start with doing something like what you've got in the works here?
Yeah. So what we've started is one of the first schools in the United States to educate both student and parent. And
Uh,
so we're located in Arnold, Pennsylvania,
okay,
an area that is economically disadvantaged. The struggle has been real in recent, really decades. And so, I fell in love with this community, and I fell in love with the opportunity to help, but not just help and give handouts, but to truly make a difference in helping. And I saw the desire that people had of like, hey, if I could just know what to do, I would be able to really lock in and get things done. And so what we have going on is set to open in the fall of 2025. So in about 6 or 7 months,
yeah,
we're going to be opening the first school in the U.S. or one of the first schools in the U.S. that educates student and parent. So we'll be a fifth through eighth grade academy,
okay,
where we will do your, round table academics, but whole person academics as well. So we educate the student not only academically, but socially, developing those soft skills, those communication skills, the ability to present, as well as the ability to think deeper. Right.
right,
It's not just reciting information back and forth, but truly taking it a step further, a deeper set of knowledge skills as well. And then we're going to educate mom or dad, grandfather, whoever it is,
yes,
and we'll do GED programming twice a week, job training alongside that to help people with resume skills, interview skills, all of those pieces. And for those that have come through our program, we offer the opportunity to get connected with businesses that are connected with us for job placement. And so it's not just, a random sense of like a temp agency. It's truly, hey, they've been through our program. We've built this connection with, say, this bank or this manufacturing entity, and we've built this relationship over the last 3 years.
okay,
Now, when they come through our program, we can say, hey, look, we've got someone that can step into a role here. And
right.
we're providing sustainable workforce for the surrounding community while also giving the community the opportunity to be a part of that growth as well.
Wow. How do you come up with how did you come up with the idea and the curriculum and everything that you're going to be implementing here?
No, thank you for asking. It has been it's been a combination of things. Number one, seeing my parents, watching the way that they went through things, not just in the classroom but outside the classroom.
Okay.
My mother got to coach and take girls overseas to play basketball. My father ran camps all across the globe, basketball camps. So he coached the Scottish national team in the Olympics. He was all over the place. So I saw these opportunities. Right,
Right.
that was the first thing. I saw how opportunities changed people's lives. So the people that were a part of these teams that traveled the globe or traveled the United States or had a chance to experience, these people are CEOs, principals, leaders in industry. And it's because they had the opportunity to see something besides the town that they were from, right?
Exactly.
And so that was really the first piece. The second was a real desire in my first couple of years of education to be excellent,
Hmm.
not perfect, but excellent.
Right.
And so I was extremely dedicated to making sure that students got the opportunity to learn at a deeper level, but then that they could communicate with one another, communicate with me, communicate with the principal, right?
Right.
Having
Right.
those conversations, and then started to take them out on trips myself. All of that naturally developed into higher test scores for the kids. And it just really blossomed into an idea of, hey, you should start a school. And
Hmm.
I laughed and I was like, no way, no shot. Some parents actually cornered me in the airport after one of our
Okay.
trips, and they were like, you need to start a school. You should start a school with what you do. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And then 6 months later, we were under contract to buy a building. And so it's again, I keep getting into the never going to happen, then it proceeds to happen. So my wife keeps telling me to say I'm never going to do the laundry, and then it'll just start to happen. So
There
that's
you
what
go. There
she's
you
trying to
go.
get me on that
So
track.
my young,
Um,
oh,
but no, so seeing those things, it just naturally developed. And then one piece that I saw was we needed chaperones for our foundation trips, the Teach From DeHart Foundation.
okay.
And so I was like, hey, I'm just going to ask the parents of the students that are going if they want to go. And we would help cover the costs for that. We fundraised. It was all through our nonprofit. And I realized on the first trip, of the like 7 chaperones I had,
Uh-huh.
5 had never been on a plane before.
Oh, wow.
And so at that moment, it clicked, like, these parents aren't disengaged because they don't care about their kids. They just don't know what it's like. They have no other opportunity. So that
Exactly.
was kind of the first moment of, we should get the parents more involved, right? And see that on a deeper level, and then seeing the need for education in the surrounding community, especially extended education outside of the normal rigmarole, high school level courses. I said, oh, I think I got it. I was like,
Mhm.
I think what we do is we educate the parents as well, because if mom's getting educated, she's going to care that her son's getting educated, and then they're both going to care, and then they're both going to walk across that stage together with a diploma in hand saying, we did it.
Never forget that moment either.
And that is the moment that we're striving for every single day at the DeHart Academy.
Oh, that is so cool. I mean, I just had a flash go in front of my face. If you're working with the federal government sometime implementing this for the whole, maybe the whole United States, I can see you doing that. You know,
I will tell you, I stay as far away from government as I can,
go
because I understand, I get it. I am not anti public, private, whatever. I'm a guy who's all for educational opportunities, no matter how they get them. Right. I grew up in K through 12 public. My mother was 40 years in public education, grandfather 30 years, dad 45 years. So like, I have all the hopes and dreams for public education to continue, but there's a lot of red tape that honestly holds people back. And I feel for those teachers, because it's not their fault. They're held back, and even superintendents are held back. And it just, there's a lot of red tape. So
yeah.
as much as I would love to see this implemented nationwide, it would truly be an act of God to see that moment happen as well.
I can see God doing that. So
Amen and amen.
I can definitely so, and I do hear about with teachers. We've had actually my wife Cheryl and I both have had a lot of teachers in the family that have retired early just because they got
Yeah,
tired of dealing with everything they have to deal with,
correct.
and it's which is sad. I'm glad I grew up a time before that. I mean,
Yeah,
I grew up
yeah,
in a rural area, so I wasn't that big a school. I don't know if that's any easier, but yeah, I can't imagine what teachers. Well, and then I know some of the teachers having to buy supplies and stuff.
correct.
Which is wrong on so many levels.
Correct. It's more common than people think. It's actually almost the expectation, really.
Really,
It is. It's the expectation that an educator provide for, if they want to do anything besides those basic pieces of paper. And even that, sometimes they're buying copy paper. Sometimes they're buying pencils, pens, supplies that would really should be a part of it. They're having to front that money themselves. It is the expectation that you just know you're going to have to do it. You're not going to make a lot of money, and you're going to spend a lot of it on other people than yourself.
that
So,
that takes a teacher's doing today. It's definitely a calling. It's got to be a calling.
correct.
You wouldn't. Oh my gosh. So what you said this fall when this is all your. Would you have a date that this is gonna?
We're looking at the late August, early September. We're still
Okay.
nailing that down. We've got a couple pieces of construction we're working through in our building. So to let you know kind of where we're at on the building side, we purchased a 28,000 square foot school. It
Oh,
was built in the 30s as a school, and it went through a couple of transformational processes, and now we're repurposing it back to a school.
okay.
Beautiful. When people ask, what does the school look like? I say, picture any Disney movie that you've seen in a school. That's what you're thinking of. Original 1930s brick, all of that. It's beautiful facade. But we're doing construction in that right now, doing a lot of painting, as
Sure.
much renovating as we can to keep, costs down until we get to the point where we can full scale go for construction, hopefully in about 30 to 60 days. So, and in that, we're close to the timetable. I can never do anything like at a good pace. Apparently, I just wait until the last minute. So this is my life.
That way. That is whatever works. That's for sure. So does your wife help you a lot with this whole journey too?
She does. So she has a separate job that she also works. But for her, she has become more and more involved in the backside of it, and really honestly making sure that I'm taking care of myself,
Sure.
making sure that I'm taking care of extra pieces, and she handles things that she knows are going to slip my mind.
Uh-huh.
I make a joke that I have three women that run my life. I've got my wife, my assistant, and then my communications director. Like, they tell me exactly where to be, what to do, and what to say, and I say, sounds great. And I'm perfectly okay with that,
Oh, I would be too.
right? But no, so she's very much involved. She's emotionally invested. Obviously, we're financially invested in this. As a couple. But there's no question that she is 100% behind this process. And she has jumped on board from the beginning to make sure that we do this right. Actually, when I first said I wanted to open the school,
Uh-huh.
she told me I had to wait 2 weeks and I had to think and pray about it. Because she said, you need to think about this for two things. Number one, she was like, I love being in South Carolina, because we were living in South Carolina at the time.
Right.
She's like, I love South Carolina. So you're asking me to uproot, obviously move back home, but you're asking me to move from a place I enjoy. And then number two, she's like, if you're going to do this, you have to do it. Like, the community is so used to people coming in and saying they're going to do things and never following through. And so she said, if you're going to do this, you have to follow through on this. So you really need to give this thought.
Yes.
So I tell people from the beginning, she's been calling my bluff from day one.
Uh-huh.
So she is a huge piece of the puzzle, on multiple fronts.
Awesome. I mean, this is so cool. I mean, so this being the Dreamcatcher podcast, and I always ask people what their dreams when they grew up. I mean, was there something that would have been a dream for you growing up?
I will tell you, funny enough, my dream growing up was to be an actor.
Oh, really?
So oh yeah, I was like, I mean, as a kid, I wanted to be an actor. Never really acted in anything. I just knew I was funny. I could make people laugh. I could distort my face to make funny things.
Okay.
Very inspired, honestly, by like the Jim Carrey
Oh,
esque
really?
comedy, right?
Okay.
So, growing up, I watched all his things.
Uh-huh.
Probably shouldn't have been watching those things, but me and Dad kept it a secret. Sorry, Dad,
Yeah.
that's out in the open now. And so I wanted to be an actor. And I tell my students that, actually, when I start, I say, my goal, I wanted to be an actor. And I
Right.
said, now I get to do that every day. And they were like, really? And I said, yeah, I get to act like I like you guys. And they laugh. And I said, no, every day I get a chance to perform. And I consider true education is a performance. And it's not performance as in checking the box, the dog and pony. It's the performance of pulling them in,
Yes.
engaging them. They feel that pain. They feel that excitement. They feel that heartbreak, right? Those are the moments that make a day. It's like Jim Valvano said, a full day is when you laugh, you cry. And there was another piece, and I can't remember the last piece, but right, that's a full day,
Yes.
right? My hope is that the classroom, I don't want them to cry, but maybe they feel the strong emotions, right?
Right.
I want them to feel when they walk into the classroom. And so it is a performance. Every day is a chance for me to perform and put it all out there for those kids right in front of me. And I take that very seriously. And so I get to do my dream
Yes.
every day, because I get to perform, to be in front of these kids who it depends on me how they proceed forward. And I
Really?
take that super seriously. And so, and then recently we actually have a docu-series, kind of like a TV show actually being made about our school and about how we're opening. And so I literally get to be on camera. So I tell people, like, my dream is really starting to come true. It just was a delayed process. Um, and so it's a really cool thing to see that play out,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
how that, even though as a kid I had this dream, I'm not that far off. No, I'm not in movies or on a stage, but the stage is my classroom,
Amen. Yes.
and the audience are my students.
Yes.
So
And I'm sure they pick up on your vibe, your passion. I mean, I pick up on it. So,
I hope so. That's, if they don't, they're asleep. And if they are asleep, we're going to have a problem.
yes,
So it's, yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
you do have. I mean, do you speak in front of people? I mean, besides your
I
class?
do. Yes. So after my first and second year, I experienced a lot of success. I was blessed to win the Greenville County Schools Emerging Teacher of the Year award for the entire district, which only went to second year educators. And so I was blessed to win that. And in that win, my alma mater had asked, hey, would you come and share the successes you're having? Like, we're seeing these articles, these things about you. would you come and share? And it kind of opened the door to like, yeah, I was just thinking, sure, I'll put together a little presentation. And my wife actually came with me to present it. And she said, you should do this more often. Like you were in your element. So yes, so public speaking has become a part of the brand, a part of the development, and a part of the story. Is not only sharing my successes, but hoping to inspire those that are about to go into the profession, or first year teachers who are struggling to say, look, you can thrive. You don't have to survive. You can thrive. There are tips, tools, and strategies that I implemented as a first year teacher that got me to this point. Let me share them with you. And so, yes, I do speak in front of people. Right now, I've been able to cover 5 states. And
wow.
so, yes, I can now call myself a national speaker, which is really cool. And anybody that's ever interested can 100% go to our website and they'll see the speaking tab and feel free to book or have conversations from there.
Wow. I can see you eventually doing a TEDx talk for what all that you're doing too.
Funny enough, I got an invite yesterday to potentially do a TEDx talk. I've always been so inspired by TED because it is such a wonderful space. But I'll tell you, the part that makes me nervous is you can't go off script. And I am very much a off script. Like, I mean, I have an idea of when I come in, but and I know, but so that'll push me. When I got the invite, I was excited and I got real nervous. And I was like, ooh, you got to like really lock in. You can't just be Matt, the guy who's, off in the distance. So I'm looking forward to, if that opportunity presents itself, I will 100% take it. I'm all about pushing myself. I tell my students to dream big, to push themselves, to get out of their comfort zone. I have to be the one that lives it out as well.
Yes. Amen. So how do you find your students? How are you going to find your students for the academy?
Yeah. So our current recruitment is actually just from meeting families in the community. Okay. So our goal is initially for our first class of students is really those within like a mile radius of the school. My hope is that they walk to school or get, their own transportation to school. And we're going to work on trying to there is a busing opportunity in Pennsylvania for private schools, but even if we can eliminate that and maybe have some kind of busing for ourselves, we would like to do that to keep it all in house. But our goal is to pull students directly from the community. As we progress, as things develop, we have already had people from outside our community reach out to enroll. And so, but our current recruitment strategy has honestly just been me going and being at events, being around these families, supporting them, teaching some of them. Right. We had one GED graduate recently. We've had 3 GED graduates. We had 3 in 2024 from our GED program. And one of them, he's got 4 kids. And because he went through our program, his kids get automatic enrollment. Wow. And so so those are the types of connections we're building, because all day long which we will put up flyers or, advertising, but the real goal here is that they know who I am. Right. And then they go, I want my kid in that school because I know him.
Yes.
Right. Because they have to trust me to trust the system. True. And our system is different, Mark. Like, it is not run of the mill, what you see everywhere. Like, we are very dedicated to disciplined mindset, very dedicated to social skill development, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, traveling across the globe. All of those things come into our educational system, and it's not easy. No. Like, it's going to be a shell shock for a decent amount of these kids. And so I need to make sure that those families have a connection to me, so that when we do have those struggles, which are inevitable, sure, it's not the end of the world. It's I know Mr. DeHart. And so number one, I know you're lying, all right. I know he's telling the truth, right? Mm-hmm. But then number 2, I know he's doing this for your benefit, because when we have those tough conversations, it's a lot easier if they understand where my heart comes from.
True. That is true. So you have a certain amount of kids you can work with?
So right now we're looking at between 10 and 30 in our first year, and we're going to try to keep it small. Our board wants to grow because they just are so excited. I can't ask for a better board. We just did a real, not a revamp, but we brought in more local presence, and it has just been a real cool experience. And seeing that our vice chairman, JP Marino, said, I could see that school's not even big enough for you, right? Like, you got so many. And I was like, I said, I appreciate it, but I want to make sure that we do what's right by the families we have,
True.
right? Because we could open enrollment all day long and it could be great.
Yeah.
But my goal here is not to be the biggest school, it's to be the best school.
Yes.
And so with trying to be the best schooling and educational options for the students we have, because some of them, it will not fit. Like the DeHart Academy is not for everybody, just like public or private or Catholic or parochial, whatever. Like it's not for everybody. Everybody's got to find their niche, right?
Right.
But for those families that have found their niche here, we want to do well by them. And that means educating the kid and the parent if needed. So if we have, 300 kids, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, you will have a lot of enrollment, but you need to start small and really make sure you're getting the job done. That's for sure.
Correct.
I mean, where would you like this to be in like a few years?
Oh man. So part of that process, what I would really like to see is that this site in Arnold is the site of educational change around the globe. And the way that we're making this happen, and when I say around the globe, I'm serious. Most people are like, we're changing the world. And I say, no, I'm literally getting a chance to change the world through our educational curriculum.
Yes.
So what we're developing is an educational curriculum that takes the work that we do, the expectations we have, how we approach learning, and we're pushing it out to schools all across the globe. And so by pushing that out there, we're giving schools, and our real target market, Mark, is really schools that don't have the abilities or the opportunities that others would have. Remote areas in Africa, India, Afghanistan, these areas that just because they don't have maybe the technological opportunities doesn't mean they can't produce excellent students, because technology is not what produces an excellent student. Technology is a part of the process with a student, but it's not what produces excellence. And so we want to push out that excellent student model to places across the world that wouldn't have those opportunities, and then build a global network of schools that utilize our curriculum, and they get to see our students in Arnold, PA as the beta site. Wow. And they get to watch our students really change the world. That's where I want to see this in 5 years.
Talk about Ripple.
Yes.
I can't wait to see what it looks like in a few years. I mean, it's just
me as well.
I am so happy you're doing this. I'm so glad. I'm so blessed that our paths crossed.
Thank you, Mark.
Gosh, I mean, so I know you like to travel, or So have you traveled to some of those places that after?
I'm going to be actually. Those trips will start towards the end of this school year, into the summer. So my summer is going to be. I could be in the country, out of the country, in the country, out of the country, as we're still building and setting up for our school year this year. So my wife was like, "You just can't settle on anything, can you?" And I said, "No." And I take the Ryan Serhant mentality of having multiple balls in the air that I could grab at any time and immediately start working on. That's where I'm at. And I love that mentality. I'm a huge Ryan Serhant fan. And his mentality of ready, set, go, right? Ready, set, take off, and have as much as you can. And you only live once, so why sit there and put everything in one basket, right?
Yes.
And actually taking that model and that mindset has helped me grow not only the DeHart education curriculum, not only the DeHart Academy, but also speaking, business opportunities outside of that. And now, I mean, my days are jam-packed, but I couldn't be happier. I could not be happier, Mark, because I'm in my purpose. Yeah, and I feel so bad for those that are not. I feel, because I can't imagine being in, I've been in jobs. I've had to have temporary jobs. I've worked third shift as a custodian at Planet Fitness during this process. I have done whatever needed to happen to make money to get through. Yes. But I could never imagine having to be in a scenario where I wasn't in my purpose all the time. Yeah. It was temporary, and it hit me. Oh, Mark, I was crushed. I was depressed. There was real downfalls, but it was temporary, right? I'm in my purpose now, and I can't imagine doing anything else. Every morning I wake up, I could know I have a million things to do, but the first thing I get to do every day is teach kids. Yes, I'm good for the rest of the day. That's what I was doing before I got on here with you, and I'm going to be doing the same thing when I leave. We have a game tonight, so I'm a basketball coach. So it's all those things being said, Mark, I love what I do, and to get to do that every day is such a blessing that I will not take for granted. And I hope others get the opportunity to experience as well.
Yeah. No, and that's what, like the podcasting. Everybody's like, it doesn't seem like work when you're in flow, when you're in your calling.
Correct.
It doesn't. So, I mean, I would be exhausted doing what you're doing, but that's a good thing. That is a very good thing. So, no, this is just so awesome. So have you ever thought of writing a book, or are you a writer?
I have written a book. So right now I have, it is not published. It should be published in the next 2 months. And it is really, it's a strategy, self-help, but also slight memoir of my first year in teaching.
Okay.
And the goal of it is truly to give a quick read to those first year teachers or those about to go into the field of strategies that I used that built success for me, so that you're not surviving in year one, you're thriving in year one. And then you go into year two, year three, and you build on success, not constantly. And don't get me wrong, I've made plenty of mistakes. I make them all the time, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell people I'm not perfect, but I've had a lot of wins. And I want others to experience that as well. So that book is it's currently with our designer. They're designing it, getting it all set. And then the moment that we have it up, Mark, I'm dropping you the link the moment it is up.
I appreciate that. So, and I think I asked you the other day, a podcast with a podcast be?
Man, listen, I tell you, like you said, you do a lot of work, Mark, to get this prepped up. And I've thought about it for a split second. But again, I want to make sure that the things that I do have in the air, the balls that I do have in the air, right, they are things that I can do well, right? Because if I half tail something, like, it is a representation of me. And that was the one thing that my parents, because I was that kind of kid that was, my mom would always say I would lose focus in something all the time, and I would bounce. And, now that's to my benefit because I've been involved with a million things. So I've got an idea of a lot of different things that I've tried and stuff. But, looking back at it, the big thing that they said is, if you're going to do something, do it well and don't quit until you finished it. Mm-hmm. So like, that strategy has been a part of my life. And so with a podcast, I would love to, but I don't think I could do it well. I know for a fact, Mark, I couldn't do it as well as you. So like, there is truly a true calling to making a good podcast, and you've done a great job with yours. And I wish I could do it, but I don't think it's in the cards right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that. You just got a few irons in the fire.
A couple, like one or two here or there.
Gosh, getting back to the kids and the families you're going to help, how did our country get so much where I deal with a lot of parents and kids that are lost? How did we get as a country, to have so many kids that are kind of what we'll be dealing with?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, this was a trend that's been happening for a while in the United States. But I think COVID exploited that. And COVID has affected so much more than people think. So they just came out, I think the Department of Education just came out with the reading test scores, and the scores for the current group of seniors, or I'm not sure exactly the age group. I don't want to misquote this, but it was tremendously lower than pre-COVID. And now there's obvious pieces to that, right? These kids missed a year, sometimes a year and a half, some of them 2 years worth of schooling, right? But I think the reason we got here is because we've started to lower expectations. And when you lower, yes, it makes things easier. Yes, it makes things easier to deal with. But at the end of the day, we're not getting better as a country. And so when you look at countries which are educational rivals, whether you want to call them rivals or not, educational competitors, right? You're seeing the expectations being raised. And yes, don't get me wrong, there's a social emotional piece that the US does a decent job with compared to other countries. But at the end of the day, when we start lowering the standard and saying, instead of, hey, I'm going to set the bar really high, and even if you don't reach it, I'm going to still help you get where I can. Right. We've gone from that to, well, this student's down here, so I'm going to set the bar here. You know what I mean? And we see that consistently. And I feel, I go back to, I feel for educators who are hands are tied.
Yeah.
They're literally being told, Mark, you cannot make this student do this. You cannot require a student to do this. I mean, in some areas, you don't turn in an assignment and you get 50% of the credit.
Oh, wow.
And that is a nationwide issue. Listen, this is the way I utilize it with my GED students, and the way I utilize it with my current students. I've taught from second grade to seniors. I
Okay.
say, when you go to a job and you don't go to work, you don't get paid. They don't say, oh, here's 50% of your pay for the day. They say you don't get paid for today.
Right.
And so if we want to put it in most practical terms, education is an hourly wage. It is an hourly wage. And if you don't show up, you don't do the work, you don't get paid. And so there's this standard or stigma around high expectations right now that we've got to break. And we've got to get back to, and I'm not saying swing all the way back to where you don't work with people and
Sure.
but what I'm saying, Mark, is that we get back maybe more towards the middle, and we say, I have high expectations, but hey, you know what? Their electricity was out. I'm going to work with them. Or you know what? I'll give you an extension on this one, but the next one, it's in your hands. Like, I face that. I teach seniors, and they're a very dedicated student group at the school I teach at right now, St. Joseph Catholic High School. And they are very dedicated. They have a lot of things going on. So if they come to me and say, can I get an extension? You know what? I'll work with you,
Right.
but you better have it by this time. And if you don't, and it's not up to par, I'm grading it even harsher. Yes, sir. No problem. And I get excellent work. Excellent work.
And you put parameters, and they know what they have to, and if you have a low, they're going to, you go to the level they've set,
Correct.
and that's just, they're doing a disservice when they have a low expectation, because the kid's going to, it's like, well, I don't need to work,
Correct. And I think we live too much in the gray. And with that gray, and don't get me wrong, I'm a dreamer. I'm a guy who sees things and goes, I'm going to chase this, big idea, right? I'm all about, there are portions that are gray, right?
Yes.
But I
Yes.
think we live so deeply in the gray, Mark, that we've forgotten that there are things that are, quote, black and white.
Yes.
There are things that are set, and you have to match this to be excellent. Even I was talking in class about a competition called the Amazing Shake, which is run at the Ron Clark Academy each year.
Okay.
And one of the students said, well, those kids are only molding, or I forget the exact term. It was like basically molding themselves into what the people want them to say. That's not real individualism. And I said, is that the case? Or is it code switching?
Yeah.
Or is it the ability to adjust? Because if you come in to a new scenario and you just bulldoze your way through, you're not going to be able to see. You have to have the ability to switch, to code switch, to have when I'm on the basketball court, I speak a certain way. When I'm in the classroom, I speak a certain way. When I'm in a professional interview, I speak a certain way. It doesn't mean I'm being fake in any scenario. It just means I know the appropriateness of each scenario, right? And so when we're setting those standards, I come back to the standard. We have this thing like, oh, everything should be gray. It should be like whatever they want in that moment or feel, and feelings move around.
Yeah.
Like that's not how things should be settled. So I think we're living a lot in the gray. And I think COVID kind of exploited that and put that on a higher level than a more rapid level. And we're seeing that play out right now.
Yeah. No. And I bet you do really well in basketball. I bet you're I bet.
I hope so. I mean, good Lord, if I don't, I'm not going to be welcome home. But it's it's another passion of mine. I had a chance. I played all growing up. My brother and I actually played high school and college basketball together. And so I've been around it my entire life. I know it like the back of my hand.
Right.
But the biggest thing that I try to do is build them into better young men.
Yeah.
And then the winning kind of takes care of itself on certain points. And I'm very proud of the boys that I've coached this year. It's my first year as the head coach at St. Joe's, and we have doubled our win total from last year.
Cool.
The seniors have set a standard of what's expected, and the future is very, very bright.
Awesome. That is so cool. I mean, I still think you need to. This is going to be, I think, bigger than. Well, we have pretty big expectations, but roll it out across the whole United States.
I appreciate that,
because I mean, there are, even where I'm in a rural area, it's still kind of the stuff that we've been dealing with, the gray area, and it's
Yeah.
where the students are not motivated, or they just. I'm, it's just amazing that we, in a rural conservative area, that we have that still going on in our schools, and I'm proud.
Yeah.
Which you are a new trend starting for this country,
Yeah.
and so
Well,
yeah,
and if you don't, sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to interrupt you. With that, right? This trend, the difference maker that people, they can see the high expectations. I mean, I've got a long list of rules and guidelines they have to follow
right,
every day.
right.
They can see that and they can try to put it in, and it can bomb, it can fail.
Sure.
The difference maker is cheesy, DeHart. And what it really is that whatever we do with the DeHart education system comes from here.
Yep.
And it's all about what can make that student better, what benefits them. We don't check boxes in our system. We
Cool.
don't do things because, oh, that's what we've always done. Actually, if it's an idea of that's what we've always done, we critique it to see if there is something to change, right? And so I say that to say, this system is truly all about giving your all to your purpose. And if it's not your purpose, you're not going to succeed in it. You're going to struggle with it. You're going to hate it. Honestly, you're going to dislike it. You're not going to want to implement it well. And so we have to find those schools that have that deep desire to get to the next level. And we've found those through connections and opportunities in other parts of the globe pretty heavily.
Awesome. That is so awesome. So I'm so, this is just overwhelming to me, because it's just like I've been so kind of depressed about these kids I talk to, and I mean, this is.
Yeah.
But you need to bring it to Nebraska. Have you ever been to Nebraska?
I have driven through Nebraska.
I understand.
So yes, I have driven through. The Midwest is an area my wife and I actually want to start hitting a little bit more in our travels. We've hit, with my personal travel, I've hit from West Coast, Northeast, South. The farthest is Denver. I've been Midwest wise, and then I was in San Francisco.
Okay.
And her job is actually based out of San Francisco. So she goes out there 4 times a year. So it's, we want to start hitting those Midwest states and seeing those towns. Like, we're really big into small towns, like local diners, like
Yes.
very much, when we go to New York, we spend a decent amount of time in New York City. And we never eat at chains. We're always, that's it, and that's because you get the real New York, you get the real Nebraska, the real Iowa, right? When you go to the mom and pop. So we're all about that. So
me too. That's our only place, because the chains are pretty much the same wherever you go on that. So
yeah.
So Matt, how can people help you if they would like to help you with this journey?
Yeah. So we have a couple different ways, right? There's obviously, we ask first and foremost for prayer over this. And I tell people, when you're praying over this, no matter what your faith is, please pray. And we ask that you pray for the success of our students, the success of our parents, and then pray for my wife, because she has to deal with me. Okay. Because she really does. She has to deal with this all day long, and it is, it's a mess. But honestly, prayer is number one. Number two, we run as a nonprofit school, a nonprofit entity, on the financial contributions of others.
Okay.
And the generousness of others. And so we have a donation link on our website. We have opportunities now where if someone was to look to try to set up some kind of endowment or tuition fund, we have those open. So we would love to see people be able to step in. So there's the monetary piece. And then there's also supplies. And those supplies go from, the pencil paper supplies to also, helping provide desks, tables, as we're going through this process of purchasing and getting those things. And then right now we're painting like crazy. Like, I have never painted so much in my life. And I honestly have come to really enjoy it. Like, my basketball team this Saturday, they're going to be painting in my building. So like, it's so paint supplies, anything along those lines. And we have those listed on our website as well at www.teachfromdehart. So teach from my last name, DEHART.org. We'll have those things listed, as well as the donate link that we can have. And anything is helpful. We are a nonprofit, so it is tax deductible as well.
Okay. That is so great. So Matt, before we end the podcast, anything else you would like to share with the audience?
Make sure you guys keep listening to Mark, because he does a fantastic job. And honestly, just continue to believe in yourself. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I had a moment, and if you don't mind, I'm going to finish with a brief story.
Thanks.
This was 2 weeks ago. I'm speaking in New York City at a private dinner. And with that, there was some issues with the hotel setting things up. So I got an email basically saying we needed to have somebody in person come and meet,
Okay.
and fix this. And then I've been, connecting with a group, Serhant Realty, Ryan Serhant, his people.
Yeah.
And one of the people I really look up to on the TV show Owning Manhattan, Niall, he reached out and was like, hey, if you're going to be at this Inman conference in Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to meet.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm sitting there typing, and we actually had a snow day that day.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the computer, and my wife looks at me and she knew something. She's like, what? And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
going. So I used my points. I booked a flight. Within 2 hours, I was on a flight to Manhattan. And I went the next day, not only got to fix the issues, got to meet him and his team. He recorded a video for my students. I set up some Zoom calls for some of his team to meet with my students, inspire them further, and then made connections at a real estate conference.
Wow.
I knew nothing. Listen, I am not in real estate, but made all these connections where people now are plugged in and want to help and move things forward.
Yeah.
And so I say that story to say, if you're going to do it, just do it.
Yes.
Ready, set, go. Right.
Yes.
And there's just go for it, because the only thing you're going to live with that is regret that you didn't.
That is
And
true.
so that's where I would like to leave people.
That's great wisdom to leave the audience with, because just do it, because if you start thinking about it, you overthink it, and
Correct.
more than likely you might not do it. So
Exactly.
well, Matt, thank you for being on the Dreamcatcher podcast. We got to keep in touch. Like I said before we started, anyway, I can help you guys, and I'm just honored that you came on the podcast, and that I just look forward to keeping in touch with you over in the future. So,
Of course. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the opportunity. Truly, it's been a blessing. I'm stoked. And just again, thank you for believing in me enough to bring me on. So I appreciate it.
No, very much, and I hope you win your game tonight. You will win the game. I don't hope.
Hey, we prayer. Yes.
Well, leave it there and have a good rest of your day. And thanks again.
Thanks, Mark.